As we have the next in our series of episodes to help you get ready for the school year, just a quick reminder that this is our last episode for July. So if you haven't made a list of the things that you feel are most important to have you ready for the next school year, I suggest that's your project for this week. If you feel like you know your priorities and you'd like some more suggestions, we're going to do that in this episode. As we've said, we're going to do our best to have a kind of a fun project and then one that's maybe a little bit more serious and getting those things in order that you really need for the school year that may not be quite as much fun. For the one that I hope that would be enjoyable for you, I'm going to encourage you to add to the children's books that are in your classroom or your school, particularly ones that relate very directly to the Montessori curriculum, especially if you have an elementary classroom or you are in charge of an elementary classroom. I encourage you to look for good children's books that relate to the cosmic curriculum topics, the origin of the earth, the universe, the coming of humans, the coming of life, those kinds of topics. And I think that if you are somewhat new to Montessori, you'll find that's a way to get into those topics and to understand them better in a way that's enjoyable. I'm going to show you just a few of my favorites and then we'll move on to the more serious project. I do enjoy very much the Cartoon History of the Earth series. This one is The Birth of the Earth. Volume 3 is The Day of the Dinosaurs. And these are by Bailey and Lilly, and I enjoy those very much. Some of these, honestly, I'm not sure what their print situation is because I do tend to buy used books as well as new books. Here's Big Bang. I like the tennis shoes and the kitchen sink on the cover. And you can tell these are books to help you understand how to teach the origin of the universe, and even just books that you can read aloud to the children or for older children that they could read them themselves. Born with the Bang, this series is very popular in Montessori circles, Mammals Who Morph, and then finally Older Than the Stars. When I teach the cosmic curriculum, I like to use some of the Joni Mitchell lyrics, You Are Stardust, because I think we need to remember that as we teach this aspect of Montessori education, we want children to get two messages. One, that they are part of something very grand, and so a sense of being part of a great creation, as well as a sense of proportion and humbleness, and the idea that it's part of their job to take care of that creation because it is so great, and in some ways they are so small while they are still magnificent. Now, I said we'd also do a little bit more serious topic. Managing the information in your classroom is one of those more serious topics. And one of the things that I found certainly is a way to make life easier for Montessori professionals is to give them ideas on how to be able to put their hands on what they need right away. I'd like you to reflect for just a few moments on how much time you possibly have wasted in the last year not being able to put your hands on something that you needed, whether it was an art supply you knew you'd already purchased or a piece of information. This project relates to the latter, pieces of information that you would need. And what I'm going to suggest is that you put together some version of a master notebook. Now, I am in the process of reorganizing the way that I am doing this. In the past, my master notebook has been a notebook. It's had papers in it, anything from rules that I've taught people in the classroom to follow. This one I hadn't even realized, this is from a few years back, had a model of the shelves and how the work was laid out on the shelves because I had a lot of new professionals in there. I have work that's in process. I have little song lists, everything that I might want to put my hands on right away. Now, one reason I pulled this one out is to to make a point. Your own personal master notebook as the educator needs to be something that you know you can always put your hands on. There's several people in the classroom, maybe just the lead has a master notebook, but it says please do not move. That means you can go to where it is and look up anything that you need to, but make sure it's there when I come back to look for it. Now I'm going to give you a few suggestions for things to have in the master notebook and then talk about how that can be part of older children managing themselves in the classroom as well. For the ones for grown-ups, certainly a list of all of the children, their parents, grandparents, other notes about the family you might need, phone numbers, emergency contacts, anything like that, any schedules that you're needing to keep, daily schedules, weekly schedules, a kind of a year-long master calendar you would want to have in there, plus anything you might need to refer to work in the classroom. Especially if you have new adults in the classroom. If you have miniature objects, you have a consonant box for B, F, N, and Z, you would then have a list of those objects in there, because some people may not recognize that a flower is a zinnia. So if they weren't familiar with that, oh, I know, can't remember what this thing is, let me go look in the master notebook. Same thing if you have games in your classroom. Copies of the rules of the games can be in there. If you've got models of dinosaurs, you could have pictures of the dinosaurs and the names of those if you don't have that kind of control of error right out there with the work. So anything that you or other adults in the classroom might need to refer to goes in that master notebook. Now this master notebook was from when I was teaching a upper elementary class, and this was to help them be able to manage themselves. Everything from the statement of purpose for the school. We were a Leader in Me school, so the 7 habits from Stephen Covey were in there. Guidelines for what we composted and what we didn't. Notes on the upcoming events so that if somebody wasn't aware of something they could look it up. Dress code rules, outdoor rules that have been agreed upon, our classroom agreements and things like that, forms that we might need to fill out. All of these things were put in there along with assignment lists. I did find in managing an upper elementary classroom that giving all the big project assignments for the whole year out fairly early in the year was a help to the families. So that was always in there. If you lost yours, you knew it was in here. And that's kind of a guideline. Oh, there's the annual calendar on the back. That's kind of the guideline for a master notebook for children is. If it's something you're going to be given or would be expected to know, even if you're given your own copy, you know there's going to be one in there. Now I didn't ever give out second copies. You got to copy it down by hand if you lost the first one that I gave you, but the information was there for you. I'm going to finish up this little short episode with a couple of other management ideas, because managing information in a Montessori classroom is always a challenge. What you're going to see here is the way that I tend to guide the children to manage their written work in an elementary classroom. These are journals. Now for upper elementary, just the regular wide line, wide rule journals are typically what I would have the children get. Now you're going to see colors here. The black and white ones tend to be a little easier to find, so I didn't usually require children to get the color-coded ones. I'll talk in a minute about how you could code them. This is a primary journal, so even for our lower elementary students, you can get the ones like this that have a place for the writing and then to do an illustration, particularly for follow-up work or taking notes in their cultural subjects classes. We're doing a zoology lesson. You can make notes here, draw a picture here. These kinds of primary ruled journals are available with lines on the whole page as well. Now, just a couple of notes about managing these. When they sit on my shelf, now it would just be one subject's worth that would be in one crate like this, but these little miniature milk crates are a great way to do this. If you watch for them on sale, I found that I can get them typically for about $1, sometimes even less than that if I watch for them at the right time. Now you can see that if your journals are in a bin like this, it's going to be hard to know whose is whose, because the way that I manage it, let's say this is my geography set of journals, blue, geography, that's part of the color coding that I use. Then this would all be 3 journals that had a blue dot on the bottom to indicate it was a geography journal, just the blue labels that you can color code things with, put tape over it, and then I use a silver Sharpie to write the children's name on here, as well as usually I'll just have stickers to put their names on here. And that's one way that I found makes it easy to have all their work together. Now especially, let's pull out the gray one, for the language journals, the math journals, if they have a record-keeping tracking sheet, so maybe all the exercises for the grammar exercises, noun 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then I'll have a checklist here. They can circle it when they have finished with it, and then when that work gets checked in their journal, it gets initialed by the adult that has checked the work. So that's just a way to kind of manage it. Now, anything that the children are going to do in the way of a paper, unless it's a big map or something that just has to be large to be manageable, I do my best to do it in half-page sizes. Once they've done that flower illustration or whatever, then they put it in here with a glue stick. So they just can glue those half-page forms on the journal. For booklets, if you're going to have either a way for the children to trace the zoology booklets or the forms printed out so they could make a frog booklet, usually if they do those in your classroom, they're going to do a lot of them. And so what I've found is that a Kleenex box, it's just had the top of it trimmed, taped down. Usually I'll staple it and then I'll tape it. Looks like this one, yep, that's what we did, at least partially here. Tape over the staples so that nobody gets their hands caught on them. For big sets of books, these are from a set of books, a great earth science study. For little books like that where there's going to be a lot of them, a full-size Kleenex box would be good. If you're not going to tend to make that many, you're more just doing these sorts of booklets, then the little boutique size are a great way to go. So I encourage you for this week, as we finish up July and we're getting close to the start of school, find a way to make the information management in your classroom easier. Get a master notebook started. I'm going to be switching to a combination of a paper one and an electronic one. I encourage you to stay digital where you can, but figure out how you can have that information you need at your fingertips and how you can get your children's work managed, as well as maybe looking into some children's books that you'll enjoy and will help you for next year.